Hello and welcome to The Boy and the Bear. I am Stephen, host and mediator. I am joined by Scotty, our bear, but our boy is actually sunsetting away in Lisbon. Scotty, I'm sure you've seen the photos that he's just shared in the chat in the last hour, and neither of us, I imagine, could really give a crap. But anyway, no. We are here to discuss all things Rangers, which there is plenty of. There's only one place to start, Scotty. Obviously, Rangers 0, Hearts 2 at the weekend. Been covered quite extensively already. I know we've had chats about it, but what was your overriding feeling watching that?
Dejection, to be honest. It was just, I just didn't think it could get any worse. You know, from the past couple of weeks, it was like there was just nothing to cling on. Like, we're getting hemmed in our own half by Hearts in the first half at Ibrox. Like, that to me tells you everything that is going on. Like, the players just look lost. They don't look like they've got belief in what they've been asked to do, or they don't know what they're being told to do. There's no runners. Like, the first goal that we conceded, you know, like, Diomande just stops running.
Yep.
Doesn't track his man back. John Suter stands there, and then Giga's like, oh, the ball's past me, and it's like Shanklin just glides past three players, and Shanklin's a great finisher, right? But he's not the quickest. Why are we not able to put a stop to that? Like, way before he even gets a chance to get into the box.
Apparently he's not a good enough finisher for the Rangers board to sign.
Well, yeah,
that's another matter.
That's another matter. Yeah, we can get on to that later on, because I've got a few things to say about that. But
I'm sure you do. Now, much of the rhetoric of the game, obviously, I don't think the actual game itself comes as a surprise, which is probably more of a reflective of the overall state of where we're at.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody would be surprised the Hearts going to Ibrox and winning, just based on how the season's gone so far for Rangers. The thing that struck me, Scotty, was the kind of sticking to his guns of Russell Martin's interview after the game. Now, I'm not sure if he's really got anywhere else he can go with it, but no. What were your thoughts as a Rangers fan? Were you looking at that and going, do you know what, fair play to him, he's sticking to it, like, yes, we all want him out, but at least he's standing up to the plate and he's answering these questions? Or what were your thoughts on it?
The thing is, like, as a fan, I'm angry, right? Like, first and foremost, I'm angry. All the positivity that was surrounding Rangers has been absolutely eviscerated in this past, 10 weeks or something he's been in, and the whole club, the whole dynamic just seems off. And I get it, right? The new board come in and they don't want to change things too quickly, because that's been a kind of label that's been around the old board. They just got rid of people too quickly, right? But I'm watching him, and I feel like every press conference he does, it seems to be someone else's fault or something else's problem. It's never him. He never takes responsibility for the way he's asked the players to set up or his setup. It's always, oh well, I had Hamza Igaman's a problem, Yefti's attitude's a problem, so they're out. Now he tried to bomb Nicholas Raskin out for asking questions, for being, you know, we've touched on Nico Raskin for weeks, and we've heard all the things about how he challenges things, but he's a good player. He wants to learn, he wants to know why he has to do it. Now, as a manager, you should know how to handle that. You should be able to if you're at an elite level institution like Rangers are, where the demands are exceptionally high from the minute in, and I know some people might not agree with that, but you need to be able to handle these players.
Sorry. No, you go, carry on.
No, I was just going to say, and I just feel like he's never really addressed that. He's never really addressed any of that. In his press conference, it's more like what I saw at the weekend. There was, oh, it's a toxic place, and yeah, I understand that Ibrox is a toxic place, and it's great when it works. It's the best place to play when things are working well. It's the worst place to be when things are going wrong. But that the fans feed off what they see on the pitch. If they see hard work, enthusiasm, like, you can lose games of football, and we've touched on this before. You can lose games of football. We're not naive. Like, there's a small percentage of the fan base at Ibrox that would expect us to go out and beat Real Madrid.
I think that's every fan base, isn't
but
it?
Yeah, right. But the level-headedness is, from majority of fans, all we're asking is the basics. It shouldn't be hard to ask a footballer, a professional athlete, to run their socks off, to run themselves into the ground. When you lose the ball, recover. Play 3 passes, 5-10 yards. We can't even do that. Do you know what I mean? And it's like, and from Russell Martin, it just never seems to be it never seems to be his fault. It's always something else or somebody else's problem, and that's really starting to grind on me now. Like, just come up and front it. Like, you look at some managers before, like Gerrard, and I know that he was a novice, but he fronted. If he made a mistake, he's like, I got that one wrong. That's on me. That's not on the players.
Yeah, so I wanted to speak to you about that a little bit, Scotty. So, from Russell Martin's point of view, because obviously we've seen the same interviews, and I maybe come at it from a different perspective where, and we've talked about this on the podcast. I remember Nico Raskin getting dropped already at this Rangers squad by a different manager. I remember Egeman's attitude being questioned by a different manager. Do you know what I mean? And it's almost like Groundhog Day. Now this comes back to the argument could be given twofold. Now Russell Martin's obviously signed all his own players, and they should be the ones playing if that's what he believes in, and therefore that is his fault if they have bad attitudes because he was part of the process of bringing them in.
Yep.
But right now it's a case of you're in that in-between period where it's the players that he's obviously questioned attitude for or the players he's not brought in. But in the same hand, this has been thrown at them before, and you can't keep going through cycles of sack the manager, bring in a new manager, sack the manager, bring in a new manager, and yes, the players change, but there's always in the last 3 years with Rangers seems like signings have been like a last minute or like throw a million things at the wall and one might stick. And the downside to that is you're not throwing a million things at a wall and then like all the other ones that don't work out just disappear into thin air. No, they're still in the squad, they're still getting trained, they're still getting paid by the club, they're still representing the club, they still grind on the fan base, they cause agitation all the way through the media. It creates an hysteria around Rangers, and that's to me what we're seeing. We're not seeing a coherent football club with a manager sitting at the top. Now, I disagree with you. Nico Raskin does not have any right to be asking why he should be doing stuff for Glasgow Rangers. He's not done anything in a Rangers top. This isn't like, I don't know, to maybe give a bad example. It's not like Ryan Giggs after winning 11 Premier League titles under Sir Alex Ferguson going, oh boss, why have I got to do that run, or why have I got to do that? Nico Raskin's done nothing. Like, who does he think he is? I played a couple of games for Belgium. No, I don't care if the manager's under pressure or not. And I quite like that about Russell Martin. No, he's not putting him in the squad. But the other problem he's got is then you've got Diamande, and I watched it and I was going, how is he lit? And I was exact same as you, Scott. It was almost like slow motion because, to all due respect, Lawrence Shankland, he's not the fastest player in the world.
No.
What is going on? And then I saw Martin's interview where he was like, "Oh yeah, Diamande said he didn't touch him for the penalty. He did.
There's a slight contact.
The way the boy fell over wasn't a dive because he would have avoided the boy he fell into if he was diving. He clearly touched him enough where at that speed he comes down. So Diamande gave away the 2 goals, and obviously your goal should have been given, etc. But
and I think obviously, like, I think like the first goal there is a clear handball from Shankland, right? That is, and it shouldn't have stood. Right? It's been confirmed it shouldn't have stood. But I'm not here. I'm not
much after that.
But I'm not here to like sit and go, oh, we were robbed, because there's so much more issues. Like, Rangers were on the end of some shocking refereeing decisions, and that you can't escape that. But how many times have we talked about standard of refereeing on this podcast? And I mean, it's talked to absolute death here in this podcast, other podcasts. And it's just, that's another issue. But Rangers still didn't create enough, still didn't do enough in the game to deserve anything from it. And I understand your whole Nico Raskin, like, I get it, right? But what I'm meaning is, he's obviously a player with huge ability, who all he wants to do is he wants to fully understand what it is, right? And some people like that, some people find that quite combative, some people can...
It depends how you do it.
Yeah, but I think if you're seeing a player who's quite clearly committed to staying at Rangers, quite clearly committed to the cause at Rangers, you can tell that on him, right? He does. I know he's been dropped before, right? But I think when he first came in, you look at when he first came in from Stanley Liège, and it was Beale that signed him. Beale played him, and then he wasn't quite able to step up to the speed or the physicality of the league.
Yep.
Right? So that's why he got removed. And then obviously Clement came in, started playing him, but dropped him again because it wasn't playing that well. And that was more of a form thing. But now I think you've seen a Raskin that gets the league, knows the physical standard that is required, knows how to get himself about the pitch, is good on the ball. It's a good number 6, and obviously, like last season when he was getting managed by Barry, like he just transformed into an overall midfielder, and I do believe he's the best midfielder in Scotland. And I'll make no apologies for that, but I just think like for Russell Martin, the issue I've got now is like, what other excuses have you got, mate? Do you mean like you've thrown the players under the bus in day one? Well, and that's rightly or wrongly, but that's the hill you chose to go down. The path and the hill that you've chosen to die on. Then it's like, oh well, the atmosphere is toxic. We've lost every away game. We've not won an away game all season. So it's not just Ibrox. It's not an Ibrox specific issue. Ibrox is toxic.
Yep.
There is no doubt about that, and it's probably the most toxic it's been. You know, I heard it from the telly. I wasn't able to go to the game on Saturday, but I heard it through the telly.
Yeah, the only fans that stayed were the ones that wanted to stay so they could boo.
Yeah,
staying for the team.
Yeah, and it's really bad when the home fans are joining in with the away fans chants. You know, like
sacked in the morning.
And I do, on a human level, it's not nice. That's not a nice environment to be in, right? And it's harsh. But at the same time, he's not. I don't believe he's given it anything to the fans to really cling on to. There's nothing from an optic point of view. There's nothing from a visual point of view to say at least we can create chances. But we don't create anything. We've got the third worst expected goal difference in in the league.
Yeah.
Behind Aberdeen and behind Falkirk.
Yeah, and listen, there's no getting away from these stats. But the next question I kind of wanted to ask you, Scott, which I think you were naturally coming on to there anyway, is that again, from a layperson's point of view, you've now had Giovanni Van Bronckhorst, successful manager before he came to Rangers, carries himself very well, understands the club, played for the club, no doubt about it, played at the highest level, played in World Cup finals. You know what I mean? So none of the elements of being a football manager can be questioned upon him, right?
Nope.
You then obviously have Philippe Clement, and if we go back to when he was brought in, I said at the time he's obviously won league titles with 2 different clubs. Carries himself very well, came across very well. Again, ticked every single box you would imagine. On both instances, it's been cast against those managers that Rangers didn't have a clear identity to play with when it came to the end of their tenure. I think under Gio, to be fair, at the start there was with the way he played. Yep. You've now got Russell Martin, who got sacked for having an overplaying situation. He didn't get sacked for not having a kind of passage of play at Southampton. He got sacked because he wouldn't move away from how entrenched he was on his style of play. Yep. And now it's been cast against him that Rangers don't have clear patterns of play. Now, I'm watching the football with the same 2 eyes as you are. Like, they're right, you can see it, but at what point do we say this has to be bigger than the manager, and that obviously you've got the new board coming in, etc. Yeah. You can't be writing seasons off as Rangers. No. But where do they go from here as a club, Scotty? That's my question. Where do Glasgow Rangers go from here? Well,
I think to answer, I think it's like one of those long-winded. There's no short answer. I think there's a series of events or sequence of things that have added, and I think you take the fans first and foremost. I think it's not just on Russell Martin. I think this hatred, this visceral nature of Ibrox right at this moment in time, the toxicity of Rangers supporters, it stems from the past 6-7 years of utter failure. When, let's be honest, that we've had sprinkled with a couple of decent Celtic teams. There has been, the Ange Postecoglou Celtic team, the Brendan Rodgers Celtic team in the first part. Yep. But on the whole, Celtic have had a large proportion of their league titles wrapped up way before the second part of the season, right? Because of abject failure from our side. Yep. Right? And that's where I think the fans just patience is utterly run out. And I do feel sorry for Martin in a sense that he is taking the absolute full brunt of that patience being at zero. And then coupled with the fact that majority of fans didn't want him. And then you sprinkle in his rhetoric, his responses to questions or attitude that's been displayed. And as I mentioned before, he's not answered questions very well. He doesn't come across to the fans very well. And I think all these little things have just created this toxic bubble to him.
Can you give me an example of that?
So, for example, on the Saturday there, when he was like, that question was, well, nobody wanted me.
You just said nobody wanted him.
I don't know. And what I'm saying is, you've just asked me to give you the example.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is, like, so when he said that, right, all he could have said is, well, nobody wanted me here in the first place. And I understand that this is a really difficult place to play. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to change everything right now. We have a lot of young players, and I'll get onto that in a second because this is obviously quite a large problem we've got. But you could have said we've got a lot of young players. They're not used to this environment, and it's going to take us a little bit of time to get used to this winning at all costs, this winning mentality. This doesn't have to be pretty, but he's not come out and said it. He just said, well, fans didn't want me, and just brushed it off, like really nonchalant, brushed it off. And it's like, you can't do that. Like, you cannot, at a club of this size, do you mean, with the amount of scrutiny, you can't just be so nonchalant. You have to come out and front it and say, I've had a few things, I've got a few things wrong so far. And see if he said that, listen, I got our setup wrong. I've asked the players to do too much too quickly. So what I'm trying to do now is strip it back. We've also got a young team. We're trying to gel. There's all these little things. And I know it's probably repeating yourself, but keep repeating yourself. But give yourself some humility. I think Rangers fans would maybe not be as harsh to the degree that we are being on him if we could see some humility from him. But we're not getting anything. And then, you move on from him. You have to look at the board. You have to look at the recruitment of those in positions of power, and then you have to look at the recruitment of the players that have been brought in. And I've said this to you and Pat countless times over the summer, over my concerns going into this season with the new board, etc. We're transitioning from an overall scouting model from any league, like the whole Moroccan league that we got Hamza Gaman, or the Cypriot league we got Yefti from, right? We've turned away from those markets, and they've been very profitable for us on 2 players, right? And we went down the same route, and I keep repeating myself, that English market, I'm not saying there's not value, because there is, but on the whole, is there enough value to justify going down that way? And I felt at the time, and I still feel that today, that Kevin Farewell, Dan Purdy, Dan Purdy, they know that league the English leagues very well. That's where they come from. But Rangers isn't a mid-table championship team. It's not a League One team. It's not a bottom half of the Premier League. And it's a very unique place to play. And I feel like, sorry, just before you jump in, I feel like the recruitment hasn't really reflected that. We've got a lot of project, we've got a lot of young players. Where is that mix? Where is that mix of experienced pros with the youth players? We've now got, I think we've got some really good players. I do think we've recruited quite well. But I also believe that some of the players, like Max Aarons, for example, like Joe Rothwell or Yusuf Chermiti, or Imani Fernandez, my God, 3.5 million for a guy that can't get on the bench. Like, I would have rather gone and picked up a Scottish youth player for that and given him a chance, or gone and got somebody from another league that
Lennon Miller.
Lennon Miller, or David Watson, somebody, I just think there's not enough. We can get onto that later on, but I just think
the Max Aarons was literally the words that were just about to roll off my lips, Scotty, because I've seen Max Aarons play football, and I know it's being again covered in the mainstream media as well. There is a good player in there.
Absolutely.
He's represented his nation at under 21s. I think it's under 20, maybe under 19, under 21 level.
Yeah.
There is a player in there. Different managers have played him. It's not as if he's had one manager in his career and that's just stuck by him. There's been different managers and obviously been brought in and played in the Premier League at some point. And with all due respect to our Scottish league, he's played at levels and played in games where it's harder than playing against St Mittens, Motherwells, Dundee United. With all due respect.
Yeah.
And those are the teams that he's struggling against, and that's where you're like, you're just rubbing your eyes and going, he's so much better than that. Same with Joe Rothwell.
Yeah.
And he's not come from a club where it's like nothing's expected of him. He's come from Leeds. Like,
wow.
So, I mean, it's so like comparable. You can almost so. Is there any sympathy if you're Dan Purdy, etc.? You're looking at, and they must be rubbing their eyes, going, "What is going on?" Like, we've brought in players that are used to playing for clubs where there's demands on them.
The thing is, I do you look at like Tello Asgard, right?
Yeah.
Norwegian international. You look at Oliver Antman, right? A Finnish international, right? Jerry Gassama, PSG.
Look at him for Norway during the week.
4 goals for
Yeah.
Asgard, right? And it's like, and then obviously you're right. Like, it's Joe Rothwell. I understand he's maybe picked up an injury. I think towards the tail end of last season, it's probably still lingering, right? But where was that player that we were told we were getting this? Box to box, 6'8", midfielder from Leeds that and helped Southampton get promoted, helped Leeds get promoted, and then obviously Max Aarons. It's like, and I get it, I understand. Like, Kevin Thewell came out last week, the week before, something like that, and did a really in-depth interview and said, we understand, like, but we chose that market because we know that market very well. We know the value, right? And I get it. There is value there. But I think, for me, it's like, what I'm starting to kind of question now is, what level of arrogance has Patrick Stewart, Kevin Thewell, Dan Purdy come up here with to think, oh, well, we'll just buy a load of these boys for the Championship, lower ebbs of the Premier League that we know Scotland, they'll just come up and it's a cakewalk. It's not a cakewalk. It's a physical league.
Yep.
And like, you look at Mikey Moore. Mikey Moore's a good player. I'm not saying he's not, and he'd probably go on to have a smashing career. But look at him. He gets halved once. He gets halved once from Alex Gogic, and he turns into a timid child.
Yeah. Do you know what that situation's really reminding me of? And it's when I was watching the game on Sunday. Diallo.
Yeah, I was just about to say. We're vibing here, man. We're vibing. It is.
You're just like, what is going on?
For me, it's like, I look at, then you transition into the recruitment. We've heard from countless sources that Josh Mulligan was lined up, signed, and ready to be sealed, and then Kevin Thewell pulled the plug. He should have been in the door with Lyle Cameron, because he is a Scottish league player, box to box, energetic, loves to tackle, isn't fazed by your Gogic's, your Stephen McGinn's, these bruisers of the league. He can face up to them. You're going to need these type of players.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Right? Lawrence Shankland. I don't care if Lawrence Shankland was brought in to be the third choice striker. Put him in the league, he'd score goals. I'm not saying he was good enough to be the league, the Europa League or Champions League, but you need to surround yourself with these players. And I was really disappointed that we didn't go and get a Dalasima. He was available for 4.5 million. And Vlakov Cherny was available for 5, right? We went and spent 8 million on a striker that hasn't scored a goal in 2 years. And I get he's a young lad and he's had quite a torrid time of injuries, right? And I'm going to give the boy the benefit of the doubt. But what I saw on Saturday has me very, very concerned.
Yeah.
Right? And for me, this strategy that we got in really screams to me of an arrogance from people who have been in the top league in the world, operated in the top league, operated in English football, and just come up here with a snobbery towards Scottish football, thinking it'd be a cakewalk. And what we're seeing on the park, from the manager to the boardroom to the owners, is an arrogance and a deep lack of understanding of the Scottish game. Scottish football is a nuance. It's completely unique. It's physical, yes. It's not the most technical, but you've got to strike that fine balance, right? You've also got to show heart, desire. It's like, it's kind of old school football in a sense. Like, you've got to batter the other team into submission, really. For that first 30 minutes, 40 minutes of the game, you've got to make them hate you, and then you can start to show your quality. How many times have we heard that before? Go and win the battle, and then show your quality. And we're not doing that. We haven't done that in a while. And I, to be honest, mate, I don't know where we go from here, because we've tried everything. We've had pragmatic coaches. We've now got an idealistic coach. Nothing seems to be.
Do you just stick it out?
Well, this is what I'm concerned about. And we're already 10th, and this is what concerns me more. And I understand it's only 5 games in, so kind of almost like you're like, it's only 5 games in, right? In 10th, and it could. But we've. I sent you boys something. I'm going to try and find it, because I sent a screenshot into our chat about the stats and stuff that I've saw about the lack of goals and things that we've not done. So it's just, I can't find it. But we've got the worst. We've got conceded. Or we've scored 1 goal from open play.
Yep.
If you can consider that, right? We've conceded 11 goals. And we've scored what? 2, if that. I mean, we've not had a shot. It keeps going on. Oh, we're one of the highest shots. No, we're not. We're so we're middle of the like we're third bottom in chance creation. Right. We're sitting 10th in the league after 5 games. I don't care who you are.
Does he realistically have, now that they've come out and publicly backed him, which I always laugh at because it usually means absolutely nothing if anything.
I was
it's
just
a
about to say
negative.
that. Yeah, I was just about to say that. Yeah.
You've now got your next 2 games are Hibs, where you've in the League Cup, and you've then got a European game.
Yeah. Against
so,
Skink.
So you've got a bit of a break from the league, get a bit of momentum there, come back into it. Does he realistically have till the next international break to at least start winning games? And get to Christmas. I mean, we're now in a short-term situation with Russell Martin, aren't we? He can't lose the next 3 games.
No, he cannot afford to lose any more games, right? And I think it's difficult because the board come out and backed him, but we heard from Patrick Stewart, and he did the same with Clermont, and then a week later he's sacked, right? And this is why Stewart's position in Ibrox is also untenable in a sense, because he's made too many mistakes. He's come out and he's thrown shade the way of the fans countless times. Come back with a pathetic apology, like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I chucked you under the bus for a tifo, but I'm really sorry." You're not really sorry. You did it in the first place. You were so quick to throw them under the bus,
yeah.
And that's never going to sit well, right? And I understand there's elements and there's nuances and clauses and all this stuff that you need to be very careful. You need to navigate, but Patrick Stewart's shown himself to be not on the side of the fans. And then he's publicly backed Clermont and then sacked him a week later. He's come out and he's publicly said that a rigorous process for Russell Martin to be manager. Him and Thewell have both said that. And then you're getting this guy that clearly is out of his depth. I'm sorry, maybe I'm being too harsh, but I believe the manager's too far out of his depth. Like, he didn't have the CV. Like we were talking about, Clermont had the CV. Russell Martin didn't have the CV to be Rangers manager, so why are we giving it to him? And I just think Stewart's position is untenable as well as the manager. Farewell, it's a bit difficult because he's literally just in the door, but his position's starting on a sugary peg. And I agree, like, Martin is on borrowed time in the eyes of the fans, but in the eyes of the owners, they are going to see this thing through, right?
Well, they also can't be seen to the first appointment to be a bad one, can they? If he pulls it through, and something's got to change at some point, Scotty. The culture's got to change.
But what I'm concerned about, and this is what I kind of wanted to touch on about the culture, right? And I get we need to start maybe not being so visceral and so toxic, right? But at the same time, this is Rangers Football Club.
Yeah.
This is a club that is built on winning, right? That second is nowhere. You might as well be last, right? Why should we as a fan base, why should we as a support accept mediocrity or accept second or substandard performances or substandard anything when you're an elite level club? You have been, like Man United. Do you mean that? So much similarities between Man United and Rangers right now. It's unbelievable, right? 2 dominant forces in the 90s, and then now it's wow. But you're not going to sit and tell a Man United fan that they shouldn't be expecting to push for silverware when that's all they've known. It's the same with us, and it's like,
yeah.
My concern. Sorry, Stevie, before you jump back in, mate. My concern is, like, we've got this English football structure, right? This English league football structure that, oh, well, we got 4th in the Championship. That was brilliant. We got promoted, and I'm just happy to survive in the Premier League. Do one. That's not Rangers. I'm sorry, that is not Rangers. That is not what this club is built on. It's not what it's founded on. It's not what we as a support want. We want to be pushing. We want to be an elite. Like, you look at Ange Postecoglou. I know, obviously, he's a Celtic manager, Celtic legend, right? Listen to the way he spoke during his Nottingham Forest interview. I've got no time. It starts on Wednesday. It will be changes, and you'll notice changes on Wednesday because I've got no time to lose.
And I might need to win the trophy in my first season.
Yeah, and you listen to that, and you compare that elite mentality to what we've been served up with a subpar manager, in my opinion. Oh, I'm going to need time. Do you think Derek McInnes? Do you think the new Motherwell manager? Do you think Stuart Kettlewell? All the managers that have moved clubs in the summer and have had the same level of turnover that we have, same number of players brought in, or roughly the same. They're better coached, better organised, concede fewer goals, create more chances. The Motherwell fans, okay, Motherwell haven't won a game, but there's signs. There's signs that they are actually going in the right direction.
I actually watched the Motherwell highlights at the weekend, and first half they were
brilliant. They just couldn't get their goal, and I think that's my concern. It's like, I get he's new in the door. I get there's been a whole host of changes, and we're trying to change the culture of the club. We're trying to change the trajectory of the club. We're trying to change it into more of a modern football club, but that shouldn't come at the cost of expecting high demands on and off the field. To me, if the minute you change that, the minute you start diminishing that principle, you might as well just close the doors.
No, I agree with that, Scotty. From a neutral point of view, I think the thing for me, and I've said this on the podcast multiple times now, and the way that I would describe it is that Rangers, especially Rangers, have now allowed the Celtic board to put the Scottish game into managed decline.
Absolutely.
Because they no longer have to push the boundaries of winning leagues. They now no longer have to push the boundaries of bringing players in. They no longer have to push the boundaries of youth development, stadium enhancements, fan engagement. No. And this is all obviously all the signs you now see coming out of Hearts. And from a neutral point of view, I think Rangers are still obviously in a far better position to do so over the next 5-10 years in terms of challenging Celtic and bringing Scottish football back up to date. But it's the only way we're going to have this league develop is if there's teams actually fighting both for relegation, top six, and for the league. And if we don't have that, we're done. And I think that's my concern. Again, you're now looking at the league title. You're now looking at, and I'm sure Paddy was brought this up already, you're now looking at an Ian Nacho scoring penalties in the 90th minute to win games against Kilmarnock, and you're sitting there, you're going...
And a dodgy penalty at that.
Well, yeah, I mean, it is, but to put that into perspective though, like, you were already 2-0 down to Hearts by that point.
I'm not saying from our, I've got my own issues to worry about, but I mean, if you're looking at it from a Hearts perspective, they should be comfortably top.
Oh, listen, they won the game, and the amount of times that's happened is just like, you know what I mean, like that's.
And I think that's a wider issue. We touched upon it, but yeah, I do agree. Like, it is a concern for Scottish football. It is a concern that, like, Celtic have just coasted to league title after league title because nobody can challenge them. They've run away with it. They put a lot of pressure on, and then they coast. Like last season, at the end of last season, they were abysmal.
Yeah,
they were absolutely abysmal. But we were a bin fire mixed with a nuclear fire. We were every sort of cluster mess possible. I didn't think we could get any worse, mate. Like, and we still made it to a Europa League quarter final with what everyone considered to be one of the worst Rangers teams. If that was the worst Rangers team, what are we now? That's what I want to know.
The funny thing is it's the worst Rangers team, but it's certainly not the worst individuals, is it?
No,
and individuals have gone on to play in other places, or do you know what I mean? It's, we're all scratching our heads, Scotty, and I think that's probably a good place to wrap up where we are today. But yeah, I'm sure Paddy Boy will have plenty to say on the subject when he starts swanning around Lisbon. So, but you've been listening
on the pilgrimage.
You've been listening to The Boy and the Bear, or The Part-Time Boy and the Bear. These podcasts are out on YouTube, Spotify, etc. And obviously, if you're on social media, you will find us at Boy Bear Pod on TikTok, Instagram. Scotty Boy, thank you very much for your time. Obviously, like I said, Rangers play Hibs at the weekend, and then back into European action, and I'm sure we'll touch base on both of those games. So, pleasure's always, mate, and I keep trying to find a reason to smile.
Thanks, man. I'm away for a wee swim in Loch Lomond and a climb up Connacht Hill, because that seems to be the thing to do. Anyway, mate, till next time, follow.
Oh, see you later on, mate.
Bye.